So you guys may have seen Eddie Murphy in the headlines recently in the last several months or so because he is making a comeback. First things first, he is going to make, in the sequel is in the works of Coming to America 2, starring some of the stars from the first Coming to America. Now, I'm not big on sequels, but, I am curious to see what they're going to do with Coming to America 2. I'm definitely curious. And he is also going to host Saturday Night Live, the very show that gave him his start. He hasn't hosted that show since 1984, and he is scheduled to appear on December 21st. And Eddie Murphy has inked a huge deal with Netflix, where he is going to do a stand-up comedy special. But if we think, and if you think, he is going to do what he used to do in Raw and Delirious, deliver those kind of jokes that made him iconic, think again, because Eddie Murphy is apologizing for his stand-up specials, Raw and Delirious. He recently sat down with the New York Times and basically apologized for both of those routines, and he regrets them. He is saying that he regrets doing those kind of jokes. All right. In his words, he says, "I was a young guy processing a broken heart, kind of an asshole." And he's talking about when he did Raw, that actually grossed $50 million in movie theaters. And that's huge in 1987. That's a huge amount of money for a comedy stand-up special in 1987. Okay. That's how iconic it was. And also he did really, really well with Delirious as well. But Raw was just iconic. Everybody remembers the purple leather tight ass suit on Eddie Murphy, okay, and the jokes that he did. But now Eddie Murphy is basically taking it all back. He told the New York Times that he cringes by watching that again. He can't even stand to watch Raw without cringing at some of the jokes that he did. Of course, he did the gay jokes. He did like the STD jokes. He did divorce jokes. All that stuff, he says he cringes at it and he regrets it. He's apologizing for the kind of material that he used to do, and he has no intentions on bringing that to his new comedy stand-up special. It's just interesting to me about the timing is all. And I don't know. It's just something about the timing that makes me a little suspicious of it. Now, we are living in a cancel culture where they will cancel you for something you did when you could be 55 years old, and they will try to cancel you for something you did when you were 10. So I find it interesting that Eddie Murphy is apologizing, or shall I say, getting in front of what could be a cancel culture type of thing, right? People will be quick to pull up Raw and Delirious and some of the jokes that he used to do, circulate them on social media, and next thing you know, they want to cancel Eddie Murphy for jokes that he used to do back in 1987. Now, this was during a time where comedians felt free to push the limits, right? They were not censored. Nobody was telling them they can't say this and they can't say that and they shouldn't say that. And, there was no social media to bring you down, right? For everybody to hop on the bandwagon. It was just one of those things. That's not to say that he didn't get backlash at the time for his shows, because actually he did, believe it or not. There was backlash to, especially some of the gay jokes that he did. There was backlash back then. But obviously, right now we're living in a social media era where things can circulate quickly. And I think he is just being strategic in that he is trying to get in front of what could happen if those kind of things that he said on Raw and Delirious got out there. All right. Because again, in the age of social media, you can take a clip from God knows when, put it out there, and the next thing you know, people that knew Eddie Murphy only from being Professor Klump, all right, or from being Norbit or something like that, all of a sudden they have a different view of Eddie Murphy because they're looking at some different kind of material, and the next thing you know, he has to apologize for it. So he's just getting in front of it. I look at it as not being sincere, though. I look at this as being a business plan. Eddie Murphy has Coming to America 2 coming out. He is coming back to Saturday Night Live. You know, these are big, huge things. And the Netflix deal, which means if he does well in this first one, I'm sure he will do others. I'm sure he inked a very huge, lucrative deal for himself. And he doesn't want the cancel culture to cancel him. So he's getting out in front of it, and he's saying all the right words that the folks need to hear to appease those people, to appease all the people that would be offended, whether it's white folks, whether it's gay people, whether it's whoever he thinks he might be offending. Let me get out here and say I'm sorry. I'm sorry for these comedy specials that made me. That's how I feel like he's saying. I feel like he is taking back shows, comedy specials that made him. Black folks felt that Raw and Delirious were iconic pieces of work. And here we have Eddie Murphy pretty much denouncing what he did. You know, and listen, don't get me wrong. I do believe that people evolve. People do change. People do evolve. But a part of me doesn't feel like this is sincere. But then again, I look at Eddie Murphy like a Michael Jordan. And what I mean by that is Eddie Murphy has always struck me, as much as I love him, and I do. I love Eddie Murphy. He's also always struck me as a Michael Jordan. What I mean by that is never really gotten involved with anything, you know, as far as black related. You never see him standing up for anybody as far as you just don't see that for him. He just always is on the fence. He don't want to offend black people. He don't want to offend white people. Well, back then he didn't care about offending white people, but now it seems to me that he is definitely making sure that he don't offend nobody, because he understands who runs Hollywood and he don't want to mess up his money. You know, that's how I look at it. I just look at him just kind of taking the safe route and just getting in front of it. Like I said, I just think it's more strategic than genuine. I don't necessarily find this apology genuine. I don't. Some people might argue differently, and that's fine. I just see it as a strategic business move to make sure that the cancel culture don't come after him. So he will denounce the two comedy stand-up specials that, in my opinion, made him like an icon in the black community. Of course we loved Coming to America. Of course we loved all the things that Professor Klum, we loved the stuff that he did. And I can go on and on and on about all of the roles and the characters and the movies that Eddie Murphy did in his long successful career. But nothing, in my opinion, can take away the fact that he did that. When he did Raw and Delirious, that was iconic, and that, to me, that was groundbreaking for him. All right. That opened we had Trading Places. Okay. We had all these movies that came along that. Like, he just had some really iconic movie roles and comedy specials that you just can't ignore. You just can't take that away. If he's going to do that, then he's going to have to take away some of the stuff that he did in the movie roles, because some of the same jokes that he made, he also did a little bit of that in his movie roles. Are we just going to take that away now? We're going to pretend like they don't exist? Is he going to apologize for some of the stuff he did in the movies as well? I just think that the cancel culture has gotten to Eddie Murphy, and he just want to go ahead and get in front of it so they don't go ahead and try to mess with his bag and mess with his money. He just want to go ahead and get in front of it. All right. I don't know. I guess you got to do what you got to do these days, right? You got to do what you got to do. Thank goodness for some folks out here like Dave Chappelle who just stand in their shit, and it is what it is. To hell with the cancel culture. Y'all can't cancel nobody anyway. They really, y'all ain't got no real power to cancel nobody, but Eddie Murphy don't want to take no chances, okay? Because again, he knows who runs Hollywood, and he just don't want those problems. So what do you guys think? Sound off, let me